nothing worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
Oh, I feel nothing but love here tonight from each and every one of you. Thank you all for loving me. But you know, as I look through the crowd tonight, I wonder what you must be thinking. And I wonder what Vince McMahon is thinking. You know, because for the last couple of weeks, he's been sending his little wannabes around, demanding to talk to moi. Problem with that is, he only sends them where he knows I'm not going to be. But that's okay, because I've got a solution. Sean Waltman, you want an apology from me? You actually show up at our offices on a Monday afternoon when I think you probably got it figured out. Even you, Sean, are smart enough to figure out I probably won't be there. And as far as the apology goes, bite me. I apologize to no one. But I've got a better idea. Because, Sean, I know you're just a little puppet. You do what Vince McMahon tells you to do. So, Vince McMahon, this is for you. I'm coming to your backyard this Sunday. That's right, Worcester, Mass. Got a little pay-per-view thing going on. And I got a hell of an idea. Just a hell of an idea. You want me? I'm going to be in your backyard. Consider this an open invitation, Vince McMahon. You show up at Slamboree, it'll be me and you, McMahon, in the ring. Well, he's got me with that one. I'd buy a ticket. How about it, Vinny? But I want to warn you people right now. If you think Vince McMahon has got the guts to show up, don't buy this pay-per-view, because I guarantee you, he is not man enough to step into the ring with moi. But I'll be there, Vinnie Mac. I'll be waiting for you.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm getting out of here. Wait a minute. Not again. Not again. Look, you hit, man.
Just relax, Chico. Yo, Kendall. I have such a good time last week that I came back for more.
Look, there's no reason.
Look. Relax, man, relax. You started it. You want to go to war? You got a war. You started it. We gonna finish it.
What do you mean we? You're coming up with this
You
we
know
stuff
who,
again. I
man.
don't see
You know
anybody.
who. Hey, did Daddy Warbucks, he get his money yet?
Hey! Well, wait a minute. Singer. Wait a minute, Singer. Not here, not now. Look, don't even dignify it, man. You came out here last week and said some real horrible things about WCW. Some real horrible things about the Hulkster, about Macho Man, about the Stinger. Somewhere along the way you got lost because you have any idea where you are? You're in the jungle, baby! This is WCW! That's right! Hold on! And every week you come out here, you say you want 3 of the best at WCW.
That's right, man. 3 of the best, man.
3 of the best.
3 of the best.
You want 3 of the best? I don't see 2 with you. All I see is you and me. So why don't we just do this one-on-one right here, right now?
Yo, You want to fight, man? You want to fight? You got one. Only nobody tells me what to do, and Chico, nobody tells me when to do it. Okay, tough guy. I got a big surprise for you next week. Chico, let's worry about the future. We want to know who your three guys are. Is it the Nacho Man? I don't think so. And what about the immortal Huckster? You know, you tell billionaire Ted to break out the money and get anybody you can, because the big man and the medium-sized man and our surprise buddy are gonna carve them up.
I want to ask you a question right now. He's had his say.
Who are they, man? Who are they?
I can't tell you. I'll tell you tomorrow night on Nitro. That's the deal.
You can't tell us? You don't jack us around, don't jack...
Oh, for Christ! Whoa! What are they doing? Security! Get up there right now! No! Get security up there! Unbelievable! Please get him. Unbelievable. This is sick.
Yeah, Tony, I got it. Hold on. Where's he at?
He's right down below us here. Oh, my God. We're going to need some medical attention right now.
Yes.
Right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Big boys, they just left the building.
Hey, get these guys off here. Cut this thing off.
Can we have some medical? This is sick.
Eric Bischoff, WCW, and the Monday Night Wars. We are nothing worthwhile. Groo, clearly Eric Bischoff blew us off. I messaged him on Instagram.
You did?
I took our pictures from Facebook with him from WWE Access.
Oh yeah, from Mania.
And then I wrote, hey, come on our little podcast. We could certainly, we'd love to have a big timer like you, and you could clearly set the record straight about, WC, like he hasn't been on 18,000 podcasts. And as of this morning, there was nothing but dust and tumbleweed in my inbox. So clearly he blew us off. So screw you, Eric Bischoff.
Yeah. Well, he's a busy guy up there in Wyoming. He actually does. Yeah. He does. He is, I think, an active television producer, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he partnering with the kid from the Wonder Years or something?
You mean Jason
Hervey? Yes. Is that not still a thing?
That's his name. That's his name.
But I mean, is that partnership? Are they still partners, or I mean, do they do stuff?
I think they're best known for. I think they did a reality show. Didn't they do it with like Hulk Hogan? I want to.
Oh
say
yeah, I love that.
Was it like a midget wrestling league?
No, it was. How do I say this?
Did they do Hogan's Family?
I don't know, but I know that they did the Hogan wrestling reality show where it was, celebrities, the late great Screech, Dustin Diamond was in it. Dennis Rodman, Danny Bonaducci, they would be trying to become the next wrestler. And Hogan, I think Hogan, Bischoff, and Jimmy Hart were like the judges, and they would make it was like The Apprentice, but with wrestling. I'm pretty sure. I forgot the name of it.
I know you're a massive Hogan mark, but I feel like when I watched it, I wasn't that overwhelmed by it.
I wouldn't say overwhelmed by it, but I certainly enjoyed it.
I remember thinking it's a hit or a miss. It wasn't. I mean, to me, I think when I watched it, I was like, if I miss an episode, I'll watch it, but I wasn't immediately.
Well, actually, what I remember about it, we're going back over 10 years, I think, at least that. But what I remember about it wasn't so much watching, like, I am a Hogan mark, but it wasn't so much watching them. I actually really enjoyed watching these B, C, and D list celebrities learn how to wrestle and take these hits and take these bumps and then see them in the ring. I felt they really did a good job building it up and building these matches up. I think Bonaducci won the whole thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Would they have judges and they got rated on their performance?
Yeah, and like at the end, and they
did they have like a wrestling show at the end of like the final?
I think they'd have matches. I'm sure it's available on YouTube to see, but at the end of every show, it would be like Survivor. They'd get rid of one, and Hogan would get up and they'd talk about each one, and at the end, whoever it was be like, Screech, you're great, but not great enough. Get out of my ring. And then.
Well, let me tell you something, Screech. Exactly. Dude. You better hit the back exit, brother.
Yeah, exactly. But it actually took you into wrestling training a little bit, and he'd bring the Nasty Boys would be on there, like as the in-house trainers. Those pictures of health.
I once saw. I think it was Brian Knobs. He was on like that Man versus Food. He ate they were in Tampa. They ate like really hot wings, like whatever I just wanted to let you know because I did see your Facebook post. HBO Max just got the rights to the Hulk Hogan wrestling reality show, so it's HBO Max is paid for itself.
You're kidding about that? Wait. Yeah, you're kidding about that, right?
Of course.
Damn! You got me excited because it's going to take me 3 weeks to come off this head of the class thing. He clearly saw a Facebook post of mine.
A good show. I definitely
it's not even a good show. It's like if you watch it now, it's so dated and so not funny, but yet so much fun to watch because I remember watching it.
Please, there's the Groo critic logic. It's so stupid, so silly. I loved every second
exactly. of it. It's like different strokes. You love different strokes. It's not comedy, but it's fun stuff. It's typical 80s, style fun stuff, and it was definitely one of those.
Do they have a very special head of the class where like the sophomore ends up in the bike shop and the?
I don't think they ever had. They definitely got a little maudlin sometimes, but I don't think they ever had that. I don't think they ever had that. That very special. Pedophile episode.
The heavy-set actor, isn't he a big shot with Nickelodeon?
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, Dan Schneider. He made oodles of money from like producing all those Nickelodeon shows, and he was also in the movie Better Off Dead. If you remember him from Better Off Dead.
Yeah, wrestling related topic. Let's get to it real quick because we got a lot of stuff to cover.
Yes.
WWE Royal Rumble last Sunday. What'd you think of the show overall?
Very good show. I really liked the show. I was surprised. It held my interest. Even the women's Royal Rumble was fun to watch. Well, just my criticisms of that, just because it's.
I'm not buying it. No, you told me you actually clicked off when one of the matches or you texted me and said, I go, how about this match isn't that bad, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm watching the Yokozuna documentary.
And you were watching what the King of Queens at one point.
No, I watched the whole Royal Rumble.
Oh, you were kidding.
Let me go back to your comments.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
I agree. I thought it was an exceptional show, and I agree with you. For 3 hours plus, it really held. I didn't turn away. I thought it was a well-paced show, perhaps maybe a shade too long, but if the WWE followed sort of that format in the sense that they took a couple of well-crafted storylines, they put some invested instead of doing 17 storylines and trying to jam them all into
Right.
a 4-hour show. I thought it was a well-paced show. And here's the last point I'd like to make. Going into WrestleMania, this might be, and again, you might disagree, the core 4 champions, the 2 women and the 2 men, are about as consistent as solid going into WrestleMania as I can actually remember. I mean, McIntyre and Reigns, you're very, very, very solid. They've built up Drew very well. I liked it. And the women's side, Sasha and Asuka, I mean, they, and I think the other thing is they've not bounced the bell around, and they don't treat it like a prop. And I think when they do that and they give these individuals a chance to hold the belt for a little bit, when they lose it, it means a lot more.
I agree, and I like what they're doing. They have Reigns and McIntyre and the others. They have them defending pretty much every week, which is great. Instead of like a Brock Lesnar going into WrestleMania with the champion after not being in the ring in 6 months.
Yeah, but Brock was a special situation because he was an attraction and he had a favorable contract.
Sure, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that now we're not going into WrestleMania like that. We're going in. It's going into. Well, first of all, who do you think Edge is going to pick? What's the better?
I'll give it to you real quick.
What's the better?
And I just want to. I'll give you my thoughts. You give me your thoughts, and then I want to get to, because we got a lot of stuff. But here's what I think. I think you're going to see on SmackDown Reigns versus Edge.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the women's side you're going to see Sasha versus Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
On the women's side at Raw, I think they're going to go back to Asuka and Charlotte Flair for the rematch. Now the men's side, I thought they would go to, and hear me out. I thought they were going to go Drew and Sheamus. They built up this storyline for a while. I feel like they popped it a little early, though. Sheamus turned on him on Raw and kicked him. I watched about the first hour and a half of Raw, and then I don't know. I turned it off. I didn't see the whole episode, so there's still 2 pay-per-views to go, which might be a problem. So I don't think they're going to go with Sheamus, and perhaps they don't think maybe Sheamus Drew is a big enough match. Could they go like a calling card, like a Cena or something, perhaps with McIntyre? I'm not really clear on the Raw side, but I think my other picks I'm pretty solid on going into Mania.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that they didn't. Don't they usually in years past they've made the announcement that night, like in the post-match interview? They'd be like, "All right, who are you going to pick?"
They've done it. They've done it both ways. They've done it immediately, and they've teased it out for a couple of weeks.
I'm excited. I am excited though for an Edge Mania main event. I think that's awesome.
Have WrestleMania tickets gone on sale?
No.
All right, because I thought they have. I thought I read that they have, and I was going to be like, "Hey, have you looked into it?" But
no, because they haven't announced exactly how it's going to be, how many tickets and what night, and this and the other thing. They haven't really come up with anything yet, so I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, is there any truth we have to walk in with like a bubble suit, and I'll be like, "Groo."
Well, honestly, you know what I think. You know what I think. I think they should. I really think they should keep it the way it is for this Mania. Let's just ride this thing out, get it out of our system, and then start fresh. We're not ready.
Well, my answer to you would be, but if Super Bowl and other sports, even like basketball now, they're doing limited seating, why couldn't the WWE?
They can. I just
forgetting safety and your thoughts behind COVID. If other major sports are starting to let fans back in, why couldn't the WWE?
They absolutely can. I just disagree with it. I disagree with the other sports doing it too. But that's another topic.
All right. Yeah, let's. All right. Well. I really do, and I know you do too. I really enjoy the presentation. They've done a really nice job. Like it feels. Don't you think it feels? It's got the live feel, even though we know it's not live. In front of an audience, it definitely has an audience feel. You know what I mean? Well, they've done a good job. The WWE's production is secondary to none, and they've done a good job strategically piping in crowd noise, and it actually puts over their storylines probably even more effectively than if there was a crowd. But I do believe, like most pro sports organizations, they're desperate. They're itching to get back in front of a live crowd.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.
That's what they do best. And
hey, look, I'm a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite because I say that they shouldn't do it, but if they do, we're going.
Oh, that's what I want to hear, brother. That's what I want to hear.
Oh, yeah. That's got nothing to do with it. If it's happening, we're there. All
right. Well, listen. Let's get back to it. Nothing Worthwhile, America's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews. Actually, at this point, it should be India's #1 bi-coastal podcast featuring two annoying Jews. Evan Moody, your host and moderator. On the floor is Braxton Moody, a.k.a. Puppy Shango, sleeping right now. He's got a tough life. On the East Coast, Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
Doing fine. It's been pretty cold cold down here this whole week, which is great because we save money on air conditioning. So in these troubled times, we need to count every penny. But it's been like getting out there in the morning. It's been like in the mid to high 40s.
Yeah.
Which is
same here.
I guess it's not abnormal for this time of year, but it's still biting when you realize you're living in South Florida. So
how hot will it warm up though? Because it'll start in the 40s.
It gets to the 70s.
Finish out in the mid 70s.
Yeah,
here.
Same here.
Yeah,
it's very comfortable in the afternoon. Very comfortable in the afternoon.
It's incredible. In the morning, you could literally have your heat on, and then by the afternoon, you're in like AC in your car. Cause it's
either way, I'm just trying to enjoy my retirement.
Oh, is that your new philosophy? This is like a working retirement?
I mean, what the hell else do you call it?
Well, I mean, I've definitely when I was in South Florida, teachers and stuff would try to sell, it's my working retirement, man. And I'd be like, you're so full of crap.
They are. We work our asses off. There's no retirement.
Well, let's get to it, Andrew. Is it ready, queued up to go?
What are we doing first? We're doing the week that was?
It's 5 things we are talking about this week.
Yes.
It's Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was.
Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was.
The week that was is brought to you by New You Life Center, recently named by Phoenix Entrepreneur Magazine as a top 15 med spa to watch in 2021. Get to know Maria and Dr. Cynthia at www.newyoulifecenters.com. That's NUYOU lifecenters.com. Or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them that Moody and Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. Thank you to New You Life Center. All right, Andrew, let's get to it, courtesy of TheVerge.com. Groo, speaking of wrestling, the WWE Network, the standalone video service from World Wrestling Entertainment, won't be going it alone for much longer, at least in the United States. Last week, Groo, WWE and NBC Universal announced that the service, which offers live streams of pay-per-view events, a large roster of original shows, and a massive vault of past WWE programming, will be integrated into the Peacock network starting in March. The U.S. version of the WWE Network app will be shut down as part of this deal, which Wall Street Journal quoted as putting over at over $1 billion. The article goes on to say that this new tag team results in positives on both sides. WWE will find itself with a wider streaming audience after seemingly hitting the ceiling on WWE Network growth, and the Peacock Network gets a differentiator in the direct-to-consumer streaming wars. The WWE Network branding will remain present on Peacock. WWE Network will be available on both the Peacock's premium service, $4.99 per month, and the ad-free service at $9.99 per month plans. So current subscribers of the wrestling service, which now costs $9.99 monthly, Groo, might actually be saving money. Andrew, overall thoughts on the move, and is this a positive deal for the WWE and pro wrestling fans?
Well, you asked two questions there. Is it a good move for the WWE? Probably. Is it good for the fans? I don't know, because I'm not a fan of the Peacock's format. I have it, and there's a lot of stuff on there, and it's great, but it's not that easy to navigate. The WWE Network is, and I'm used to it, so, I'm not sure how they're going to do it. If they do it like HBO Max does, if they have little hubs where you can literally go and click on, if you like for HBO Max, if you want to look at only the DC stuff, you can click on DC and it'll show you everything, Batman versus Superman, all that stuff. So if they're going to do that, then it could work. But if they're going to just like spread it all around the way the Peacock does now, where it's like you literally have to search for something specific in order to find it easily. We'll see how they do it. But now actually it's going to cost. It's going to save me money anyway because I get the ad-free Peacock.
Of course,
which is the regular Peacock is free. The ad-free Peacock is like $4.99, and I pay $9.99.
What I have in my notes, Peacock is $4.99. The ad-free is $9.99. Is that incorrect?
Maybe. I don't know. But either way, if you're getting if it's going to cost $9.99 for an ad-free Peacock, which includes WWE Network, basically saving $9.99 because you get rid of the WWE Network.
Okay. So
yeah, the only negative.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No. Like I was just finishing. The only negative I see is I'm not a fan of the Peacock streaming platform yet. So
okay,
that's all.
So I asked two questions, and I agree with you. The first one, in terms of the move, well, it's a positive for the WWE, but they just got $1 billion. So
yeah,
it shows you. Again, I am not the connoisseur that Andrew is, but on a pure business move, the WWE just got $1 billion. So business-wise, phenomenal move.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, is it a good deal for pro wrestling fans? My take on it is a little different from Andrew. I think the WWE, in essence, waved the white flag on the WWE Network. The WWE Network internationally, domestically, had less than 2 million subscribers. You had to think when Vince, and it's a great idea, and the WWE is still pretty progressive business-wise, you had to think that 2 million for all the WrestleManias and all the fans, I mean, that was a pretty achievable number, and they didn't come close to it. So I think that their idea was, you know what, another service is starved for content. To Andy's point about the actual physical layout of the Peacock Network, I imagine if they're smart, they'll make it a hub. They'll make it a button where you can go to the WWE Network setup where it should be easy to navigate. As a pure business move, thumbs up. As a move for wrestling fans, I won't say it's a thumbs down, but I think it's the white flag where Vince and the WWE management are saying this just didn't turn out to be the major hit that we thought it was. Peacock Network has control of WWE programming, the network, for 5 years. After that, they could perhaps rebrand a standalone network. What are your thoughts on what I just pitched to you?
Well, I guess it's a win-win for everybody because now it's going to open up for the people who already have the Peacock who are going to stumble upon things that it might open some doors there. But have they said, is literally everything transferring over, or are we going to lose some stuff?
From what I understand, it's supposed to be a WWE Network, whatever's on the WWE Network.
Because without my WCCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling, house shows from 1982, I don't know if this is a good buy for me. But
again, as a pure business move. I mean, now if the WWE took $1 billion, added it to infrastructure, again, got the best wrestlers, to have the top roster, I'll be happy. But but I do think it's them saying this deal didn't work out to be. It's almost like if you were a musician and you went from stadiums to arenas. I just think it's they're signaling the white flag, and they're making the best deal possible to keep the network afloat on another service. That's how. That's
are you going to see? Are you going to see WWE superstars show up on NBC programming?
Perhaps
like this week.
I don't know.
This week, Drew McIntyre makes a special appearance on Manifest.
Busted Open, they did talk about, the WWE also has, programming on Fox. Could this be?
And USA. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I think USA is part of the NBC Universal.
Oh, yeah,
family.
you're right. You are right about that, yeah.
All right.
Well,
let's move on. WWE Network, check it out on Peacock. I will say I'll probably get the Peacock Network now because I want to continue with the WWE.
Well, you might as well. You're not going to have to pay. I mean, yeah, you might as well. And there's
okay.
Look. I have to say, there's a lot of great stuff on the Peacock. You can get every Saturday Night Live that was ever produced. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I hear you.
That's pretty cool.
I hear you.
But it is tough to navigate.
I don't have. I mean, there's only 24 hours in the day. Even if I was independently wealthy and I was home every day, I just don't think there's enough time to. But all right,
if I can find the time, so can you.
Damn it, you're right. Groo, don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still Jenny from the block. Groo, Jennifer Lopez is setting the record straight about her famous face. Earlier this month, the 51-year-old triple threat clapped back at an Instagram critic who accused her of definitely having Botox and tons of it. Jenny replied, LOL, that's just my face. For the 500th millionth time, I have never done Botox or any injectables or surgery. J-Lo doubled down in a recent interview with People. I don't judge anybody. If you want to do Botox and injectables, that's fine. But I don't want people lying on me and saying, oh, she's trying to believe that this stuff works. Lopez said, please don't call me a liar. I don't have to lie about anything. J-Lo previously revealed that earlier in her career, an ex-boyfriend did urge her to give Botox a try. His dermatologist said, did you know you have a little line right here? We should start Botox. I mean, I had to be all of 23 years old, right? And I was like, I'm going to pass. J-Lo has said she relies on olive oil. Olive oil. A key ingredient in all her J-Lo beauty products and salads, might I add. A daily sunscreen application to maintain her eternally youthful glow. Groo, not a topic you might be too familiar with, but are you buying that the very beautiful 51-year-old J-Lo has never done anything to her face, despite her claims otherwise?
I would say she's probably telling the truth. What happens is the reason.
Wow!
Yeah,
Shocking take.
She's probably telling the truth. Number one, whether she is or not, it doesn't matter. She's still unbelievably smoking.
We can all agree on that.
And usually, when people do Botox, you can tell. And I haven't seen a great Botox job. I've seen.
Oh, you haven't gone to New You Life Center.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I would say, look, we never see someone like J-Lo on without pounds of makeup because she's always on TV. Let me see her. Let me see her like the old days when I used to roll over and see her in the morning without without makeup on, and then you could tell if someone's done Botox. But at this point, why would somebody like her feel the need to lie about it? If it were me, I'd be like, yeah, and look what it's done for me. So give it a shot. Why does vanity have at this point? Once you hit 50, vanity, just tell the truth. What's the difference? Does William Shatner deny that he wears a rug?
My take on it is hold on, let's conversate now. My take on it is she's I find that to be hard to believe. I agree with you. They all wear tons of makeup and there's different lighting, and so that I won't disagree with. But I find it hard to believe that she is that flawless and has not done any kind of work or injectables to her face. I have a little bit of knowledge of this because my girlfriend is in this
I was going to ask, what does Marie think?
Well, she's in class today. If she was at her office, I would call her and put her on live.
Yeah.
She would say that she would find it very hard to believe that she's the kind that, like, if I'm watching an interview with Bruce, she'll be like, Bruce has gotten, and I'm like, don't tell me that. But
yeah, but you can, but you know what? Even with Bruce, you can tell that he's had work done.
Understood, but I mean, getting good work is where it looks very, very natural, and I think 51 notwithstanding, there's a vanity there, and they want to keep up appearances. Why do people lie? I mean, people lie every day for a variety of reasons. I'm not killing her for it. I just thought it'd be. I was just curious to see if you thought she's not.
Either.
I find it very. She's 51. I'm 50. I know what age can start to drag you down, and
Well, anyway. If she did have it done, it must have been at New Year Life Center because it is.
Thank you very much.
It is spectacular work, and she is spectacular.
You know what? Tonight I'm going to put extra olive oil on my salad.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Andrew.
No, I don't know. I don't know what a salad looks like, but I'll put extra olive oil on my chicken parm.
Very good. Actually, sounds pretty good. Andrew, she's been sex communicated. A Belgian cyclist claims that she was banned from joining the men's team after posing for a sexy Playboy shoot. Those were photos I wouldn't hurt anyone with. Tara Gins told Cycling News of the shoot, which involved posing for the American Nudie mag and appearing topless. Topless. Topless.
Boing.
Ronnie Munn. For the Belgian firm last year. She also frequently shares saucy snaps to her nearly 30,000 followers on Instagram. However, these salacious stints may have cost the blue-eyed blonde a gig. Shortly after committing to an unnamed male riding team, Ginn said someone put the brakes on her career. I had a verbal agreement to start working for a team as a sports director this year in 2021, lamented the crestfallen cyclist. That was something I was really looking forward to because that is the direction I want to go, she added. But apparently someone has made a problem with a photo of me. During her banishment, Ginn said the team leader had told her on Saturday that he was breaking off the commitment that we had because someone on the team, a staff member, came across pictures of me. That person sent the pictures in a group chat to the other staff members. She continued, adding that someone must have threatened the manager to send those pictures to one of the sponsors. The ex-cyclist adds that her firing is a huge double standard, given all the inappropriate behavior she has witnessed from male bikers, including cheating and sharing pics of girls who are not aware that they have been photographed. She added, apparently as a man, you can do a little more in the world. Gins claims that her banishment is probably for the best. I don't mind now that the job has been canceled. The cyclist turned calendar girl said, I don't want to work for people who don't see my capabilities and just walk with the herd. Groo, did the female cyclist ride into a raw deal?
Is she hot?
You're on mute.
No, I'm not.
Oh, now I can hear you. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said, is she hot?
Well, apparently she posed for Playboy.
You know what? You know what? It's a good thing that this culture didn't exist in like the 70s and 80s. Like when Jane Fonda was in Playboy, I'm surprised her career didn't tank. Or Farrah Fawcett.
Jane Fonda was in Playboy?
I'm pretty sure Farrah Fawcett was. Some of your biggest stars were.
Farrah Fawcett was in Playboy?
Yeah. Boing.
It's my Artie Lang.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't understand all of a sudden, like, everybody's on this moral high horse about that kind of stuff. Exactly what she said. She used the exact right words. Who is it hurting? It's harmless. It means nothing. I'm making a living. She's not selling drugs. She's not talking about crazy conspiracy theories that could be dangerous. She's not doing these kinds of things. She's taking a picture of her tits. Big deal. You know, yes, I don't get it.
Yes, political Andrew. Yes, Andrew, please go ahead. Pontificate.
Well, yeah. I mean, you come on. You got to agree with me on this. That's ridiculous.
So here's what I say.
It's ridiculous.
Hold on. In theory, I agree with you, but she's she's really dumb if she does not think that there could be some pushback at the JOB for doing something that's outside the norm. Do I have a problem with it personally? Absolutely not. But, I mean, most companies, if you pose for salacious photos or you do something outside the norm that could possibly bring negative publicity to the firm, to the job, to the school district, to the whatever, it's to be expected. And for her to, she does acknowledge it's probably for the best. Do I have a problem with it personally? No, but for her to think, for her to be like, wow, I can't believe I got fired is kind of, you got your head in the sand.
If she mentioned double standard, if what she means is, like, let's say you're a school teacher and you do this.
Go ahead.
Yes, you probably deserve to lose your job. In that respect, would that make it a double standard? Should it make a difference what kind of company you are representing?
Well, because
I think it does. Because I think it does make a difference.
Okay, hold on. The double standard she referenced was with men versus women. So I'm assuming if a man posed naked, he'd probably get canned as well.
In this case, I would hope so, because then it would be a serious double standard. But yes, there are certain industries where this is not what you want to do. But a biking team.
If you're referencing teaching, for example,
yeah,
most teachers, most districts have it's in the fine print, but there's a personal ethics clause in the contract that you never see, that just renews year to year and all that crap. And so schools do have an out if you are perhaps get in trouble with the law, things of that nature. There is an out in your contract so teachers may be held in the community to a higher standard than a cycling team. But you mentioned teaching, so I do. Once in a while you read of a teacher that's gotten fired for saucy photos or got caught in a club with doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is posing for a publication. It's obvious she wasn't trying to hide it from anybody because she's doing it in public. She obviously doesn't see anything wrong with it. So I don't know. It's Playboy isn't even porno anymore, is it? It's barely, What's that?
Hold on, I just set up a one-liner, and you talked about speak for yourself. I thought they said that they weren't going nude, and then I think like 3 months later they peeled it back.
When they sold no magazines.
Like I think they went like kind of like the Maxim magazine route, which was like sexy, but they were covering.
Hey, when they decided to do that, they lost 12 subscriptions from me on my own. So
Yeah, Andrew got the USA, the Spanish, the French, the German.
The archives.
Right, well, listen, I mean, I guess you're saying she got a raw deal. I guess I'm saying she did, but it's to be expected.
At the most, some disciplinary action, but to get fired off a biking team for that, come on. From an industry that the biggest issues of the year are like the swimsuit editions. You still do that. Like this is an industry that's known for its debauchery. I mean, come on.
I'm saying, Groo, increase our subscription to Biker Chick Weekly.
I already did it. I have the app. Right. I have the app right here.
Shocking, Groo. Last week, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals demanded that people stop using specious terms such as chicken, pig, or rat as insult for humans, and promptly got ripped as dodos for the stunt. The PETA tweet was so widely mocked online that it soon boasted an embarrassing ratio of, let me finish, of almost 11,000 comments to just over 3,000 likes as of last Thursday morning. Calling someone an animal as an insult reinforces the myth that humans are superior to other animals and justified in violating them, the animal rights advocacy group said in its earnest call to action. Stand up for justice by rejecting supremacist language. PETA social media reps also included a chart detailing the human supremacist terminology and suggesting alternative language, such as using coward instead of chicken, snitch in lieu of rat, jerk rather than steak, repulsive rather than pig, and lazy to cast aspersions onto someone with sloth-like tendencies. Needless to say, the majority of commentators deem the directive a bit cuckoo. Congratulations on the stupidest tweet of 2021, and it's only been 4 weeks, scoffed one detractor. Even staunch vegans found PETA's tweet difficult to digest. This is my 7th year of being vegan, and I'm begging you to never tweet again, wrote one aghast herbivore. Undaunted, PETA argued in a follow-up tweet that specious language was also inaccurate, as animals possess surprisingly human-like attributes. Pigs, for instance, are intelligent, lead complex lives, and show empathy for other pigs in distress, they wrote. Snakes are clever, have family relationships, and prefer to associate with their relatives. Braxton, what do you think? Groo, thoughts on PETA's suggestion to eliminate specious languages?
What a bunch of horses' asses. That's the dumbest thing ever. I don't get it. What's who are they representing? That's a slow. Right, that's what you call a slow news week right there.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's switch everything now. So if I called you a dick, I'm technically I mean human males and some others have those, but so do some animals. So
good point.
So I mean, can't they figure out something better to do with their time or money to? I mean, that's cancel culture at its absolute most ridiculous.
Well, I agree with you, and if they're really for ethical treatment of animals, they would focus on policy things that would be to protect animals, or the meat industry, things of that nature. But to worry about, human beings calling each other rats and language, which is whatever it doesn't offend me, but it could be offensive to somebody else. Who cares? I agree with you. Suck it up.
I've never heard of anybody being offended by that kind of language.
If you're truly for ethical treatment or protection of animals, this is really a waste of time.
It's a waste of time no matter what. Really
all right. Well, here's speaking of.
I love what you said though. What I was laughing is what you said. You're like, what a bunch of dodos. That made me really laugh.
Well, what I do is I find the article and then I try to thin it out because I don't want to speak for like a minute. I try to cut out the stuff. I try to condense the article, but some of the stuff as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, I love
you can't skip over it.
I love. Yeah, I just love that. I love the one line where it says, even like a vegan was like, I'm vegan for 7 years and this is stupid. Like I thought that was kind of funny.
Oh,
well, Andrew, I want to end on this shocking culinary news, and I know you're going to be shocked.
Oh, no.
But 2 California women claim Subway's tuna fish sandwich actually contains not a scintilla of tuna fish, and that they were duped by the fast food joint's claimed. A new $5 million lawsuit alleges Karen Danawa and Nalima Amin, both of Alameda County, California, say they ordered tuna fish from the sandwich giant at locations near their home as recently as last year, according to a federal lawsuit in the Northern District of California last week. They claim that independent testing has repeatedly affirmed that the products are made from anything but tuna fish, the court papers allege. The filling in the products has not a scintilla of tuna at all, the suit claims. In fact, Subway's tuna is made from a mixture of various concoctions that do not constitute tuna, yet have been blended together to imitate the appearance of tuna, the court documents claim. Subway has done this in an effort to save money since the blended non-tuna products cost less, the filing allege. Danawa and Amin were tricked into buying food items that wholly lacked the ingredient they reasonably thought that they were purchasing, the court papers allege. They have brought claims of fraud, intentional misrepresentation, negligent misrepresentation, and unjust enrichment against a company. A Subway spokesman calls the claims baseless and frivolous, adding that they are being pursued without adequate investigation. There are simply no truths to the allegations in the complaint that was filed in California, the spokesperson said in a statement. The spokesperson said that the quality and taste of their tuna fish makes it one of their most popular products. I agree. Their allegations threaten to damage our franchisees, small business owners who work tirelessly to uphold the high standards that Subway sets for all of its products, including tuna. Unfortunately, this lawsuit is a part of a trend in which the named plaintiffs' attorneys have been targeting the food industry in an effort to make a name for themselves in that space, the rep alleged. Groo, thoughts on this tasty controversy? You like to talk about tasty controversy?
Yeah. I've had, not often, I've had it a couple times, tastes like tuna. But even if it's not, if I'm hankering for a tuna sandwich or tuna, I'm not going to Subway. I'm going to find...
Oh, how dare you.
No, I'm not going... Oh, I like Subway, but if you're going to tell me that if you're going to go to Subway and get upset because you found that there's not much tuna in their tuna and claim that you were duped, no, you were duped by going into Subway thinking you were getting something healthy. Subway is a fast food chain. All right, it's where you go when it's where you go on a budget, and it's where you go if you just want some comfort. Yeah, and it's fine. The lawsuit is ridiculous. If you think that you're going to KFC to get chicken, then you're being duped. There's no chicken in there. It's fried stuff, and it's delicious, and it does what you want it to do. You don't go to KFC to lower your cholesterol. You know, I mean, look, these people are just trying to find new things to sue for. And look, if Subway was able to survive the whole what's his name pedophile fiasco, that guy
Jared,
Jared, if they were able to survive that, I think they'll be fine with this. I don't think this is going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I could probably remember walking into Subway with you a dozens of times, you know, when we were living together, or just, you know, a camp day off or something like that. I agree with you. Actually, I only pretty much eat the Subway tuna. It's my favorite, and I'll go one step further. I don't even like the fresh tuna at the top of the bowl. I want the tuna like in the bottom with all the chemicals and, you know, all the bacteria. I want like the very last, you know, the
That's
least
like
fresh.
me. That's like me when I order macaroni and cheese at the deli. Like, I want some of the top hard crud, like the burnt part. Like I don't want you to go into where the good stuff is. I want that plasticky surface that's like black and yellow. It looks like I don't know what it looks like, but
I want to eat a Subway tuna sandwich that's not made of tuna, and I want to have food poisoning afterwards. I want to be doubled over. That's a fun afternoon to me.
It's all part of the experience.
Yeah, well,
but like I said,
actually, I do love the Subway tuna. It's my favorite. Am I shocked by it? I believe I read maybe 6 months ago somebody also claimed that the chicken had literally no chicken DNA for the Subway grilled chicken sandwich, and I agree. I mean, it's spongy. That's why
I don't get that stuff there. If I'm looking for that, what I get is this like. I'll get a turkey sandwich because that stuff comes out of that's processed the same way that the stuff that you buy in at the store. So, you know, that's what I'll get there.
Yes, that's Anthony Bourdain Gruthius. Yes.
Hey, wait a minute, he's dead.
Yes, I'm sorry, Anthony. I'm sorry.
What's the other guy's name? Gordon Ramsay. I'll go with that one.
No, I actually like. We watch at night sometimes. Guy Fieri, Diner Drives. It's really actually.
Isn't that the guy who hosts like Minute to Win It, like all these other weird things?
I don't know, but I mean,
yeah,
what are you, a food snob now? What are you?
No, I just these guys that like, it's like, what are they selling this week?
No, he owns. He's a chef, and he owns a lot of. He gets a lot of criticism because he owns a lot of like. not fast food, but he owns he prides himself on diners, drives. So it's it's
love
not
that.
high quality.
He's my guy.
Yeah, I went to Maria and I went to Vegas. We stayed at the Rio, and he had his restaurant is downstairs, and I had a mega margarita. And
I thought you were talking salsa. like a 3 a.m. moons over my hammy.
Well, yeah, and then guess what happened? This was like our second or third date. I met her in Vegas, and I had
you
one.
You go to
drink.
Vegas on a second date? Wow.
Yes. I went out with Marie, and then she went to Vegas to visit her grandson. She has a grandson.
I know that.
So she messaged me from Vegas, and she said, FaceTime, and I was like, hey, have a great weekend. And she was like, you want to fly out to Vegas and come stay with me?
That is hot. That's what I want. It's like we have a date scheduled for Friday night, and then you get a text like Friday afternoon, like, instead of going to the ale house, do you want to go to the brothel in Vegas? Sure,
Well, I think you'd be proud of me because I've been fairly in my life pretty well controlled, and I went, fuck it, and I got online. I bought a ticket. I said to myself, I don't even know this girl.
Hell yeah!
And I flew out to Vegas,
do.
And she met me at the airport, and
now you have, and a couple of years later, you give birth to Braxton.
That's right, right, Braxton. So. Well, Groo, let's get to it. That was the week that was. So let us scale back to our last podcast. Hold on one second. It was Cobra Kai, Season 3 Roundtable. We wrapped up our Karate Kid themed broadcasts and topics. We'll have to wait for Season 4, but we do not have to wait to hear what we discussed on our last podcast. Groo, we discussed the move from YouTube Premium to Netflix. We did an episode-by-episode breakdown of Season 3 of Cobra Kai. Groo, listeners did chime in with some of the comments. Most of it Cobra Kai itself.
Don't we want our we got mail?
Yeah, but let me talk it up.
Okay, all right.
Did I miss it?
No, go
all
ahead.
Right. Groo, listeners did chime in with some of our comments. Practically none of it on Cobra Kai itself. Rather, our viewers commented on our inane banter prior to our core topic. So, Groo, let us get to it. It's time for Viewer Mail.
Letters, we got your letters. We got your letters every day. Mailman ding dong, give me your letters today.
Nothing Worthwhile Viewer Mail is sponsored by New You Life Center. Phoenix Entrepreneur Magazine named him in the top 15 med spas to watch in 2021. Life-changing solutions tailored to your goals. Check them out at www.newyoulifecenters.com, NUYOULifecenters.com, or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them that Moody and Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. A big thank you to New You Life Center, courtesy of our Facebook fan page. You can check out Nothing Worthwhile on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Nothing Worthwhile 1985. Reader wrote, "This has been bothering me." Dr. Cynthia. Dr. Cynthia, is that her first name or her last name? Is her last name Cynthia? No, that is her first name. Her full name is Cynthia Hinojosa. And she is very good at what she does.
That was definitely Stephen.
Yes. Stephen also
that
commented
would bother him.
Carpool karaoke is brilliant. How can you trash it? Those are so much fun and creative. I'll comment first, and I'll throw to Groo. I just don't find James Corden to be very funny, although I did laugh at his Keurig K Plus coffee maker commercial where he goes, aroma, aroma, aroma. But I find him to be, look, I'll just say he's not the most manly man, and I'll zip my lips from there. I mean, I guess I'm very disconnected to late night television. I don't watch it anymore. I'm in bed. And if I do have free time, I watch other stuff on streaming. I don't know. I'll throw it to you, Andrew.
No, I agree. And I think what I said about Corden is that to me, he's not a late night talk show host, but the sketches the kind of sketches that he does, he's a talented guy. He's a good singer. He's a talented guy. I guess those things are hit or miss. But he did one thing. He did he did a thing. It was an anti-Trump thing, but I thought it was creative. He did a Les Miserables kind of thing with a whole bunch of people coming in on Zoom, which I thought was kind of fun, like a song. He does good, and that's the carpool karaoke stuff, like that kind of stuff. When you get a good guest and you get a good situation, it's fun to watch. But habitually, I've never. Here's what I'll say, and then we'll end it. I've never watched it like live. I've watched something that somebody would tell me, "Oh, check out what he did," and I'll go watch it that way. That's the limit of my James Corden watching.
I can't say I'm shocked that James Corden, number one, did an anti-Trump thing, and number two, even less shocking, is he did it on Les Mis. Oh boy, read the tea leaves there.
Hey, Les Mis is a great show.
Well, I'm getting a little nervous about you. You mentioned like 2 podcasts ago you listened to the Broadway Music Channel on Sirius, and yeah, okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Here we go.
I mean,
I listen. Honestly,
I hear in the background, I hear like.
Actually, I gotta say, this'll put it in perspective for you. The reason that I kind of like that stuff, that's what my dad listened to, and that's what he still listens to. He loves that stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm not questioning your dad. Your dad's the most manliest man.
I know, but I am my father's son, and a lot of the tastes that he has, playing the piano, same kind of stuff. All right. Anyway,
I think isn't "I Am My Father's Son" the new Phil Collins single? It's number one in the adult contemporary soft rock.
It sounds something like one of his early songs, like "I'm my father's son, Shigaleo."
Yeah, they did post. Genesis did post practice footage.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. It's really depressing though, seeing Phil unshaven, like on a stool with a cane singing. It's just depressing.
Yeah, but you said, and we've covered this before. You said you went to see him live, where he was that, and you thought it was a great show. I
did, but one thing I acknowledged is. And for that show, it worked. And I do want to move on, but I did say his voice is raspy. He can't hit the notes as well as he did anymore. But he's, I don't know if it's admirable. He's come to terms with his current state, and I found the show to be very entertaining. And I did not mind the voice, the octave. It didn't bother me. Maybe other people it might have, but for him, I didn't mind, and yes, I thoroughly enjoyed the show.
Yeah, and I've read nothing but good reviews of it. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you go see a Genesis reunion tour?
Yes, only simply for the fact that I've never seen them, and I would love to see them.
Well, I would too, and
if I did see them, I'd probably fly out to Florida or have you come to Arizona so we could see the show.
Yeah, and I have, and I would see them again in a second, and I have seen them a few times, and I would just do it because I enjoy wasting money. So I,
No, you would see it. No, I don't believe it. You would see it because you're a music fan, and this could be very much the last time we get to see some of these guys.
Yeah, but it's also one of my favorite bands. So whether it was the last time or not, I would still go see it. Did you read? And I know we're belaboring this topic, but did you read the Chester Thompson article?
No, but I do know that I'll say this. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll only surmise that they're going to go with Nick Collins, Phil's son. So is there bad blood there?
It was like, read the article and then we'll talk about it next week. It's interesting because it doesn't. It's not really bad blood. He's really towing the line. But it was interesting to me.
Well,
so when you read the article, then we'll talk about it.
I didn't finish it, but I started watching Hired Gun, the documentary. It was on Amazon Prime. I watched a little bit of that too. With Liberty DeVito's a big focus of that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Steven goes on to say, Puppy Shango is such an awesome name for a dog. You probably should legally change it from Braxton. I laugh every time it's mentioned. Oh, there's Braxton on the floor. Braxton puts smiles on faces Of course, I'm biased, but he's my sweet little boy. I love him so much. So we'll
just for you folks playing the home game. Whenever Evan says like, "Oh, you're my sweet little boy," he's literally looking down right towards his crotch. So I don't know if the dog is there, but I'm just saying it because that's what it looks like to me here.
Actually, I will say this then. My sweet little boys. So I'm
yeah, there you go. You've been so good to me. We've been through so much together.
Steven goes on to say, very interesting. Larry King, Ric Flair, Doogie Howser, no Hank Aaron. Come on. So I'll comment on that first.
Wait, Doogie Howser, what?
We did talk about, I think there was an article that we quoted Neil Patrick Harris.
Straight people playing gay. All right, yeah.
Right. So I will say this. I try and do one pop culture article a day so it covers the majority of the week when we do our notes for the show. So I will say Hank Aaron was an oversight. Larry King passed away earlier that morning, so Groo and I just opened with the Larry King news just as some opening banter, but there's no disrespect intended on the passing of obviously the late great Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
So I that's an oversight, but it just didn't happen. But yes, it was an oversight, but no offense taken. It was just didn't have it on the notes.
And so, just to cover our basis, we can just send a quick shout out to the late great Christopher Plummer.
Now, I do want to add, this was on the web Facebook. I'm pulling it up on my screen. I do want to get your comments. One Craig Hassenbein says about Cobra Kai.
I read this.
Groo, easy with the love fest. Cobra Kai is a great fun show, but come on. It relied heavily on nostalgia to go over this season. The kids were almost in the background to the stars of the original show. Love the Elizabeth Shue appearance. The Dueling Dojo storyline is based on criminal gang activity. Is that really magical? Plus, really, did you want to know the thug bully in Juvie? Every character requires investment? ? I love the comments because it was we're kindred in our thoughts. So I want to hear Groo's comments first because I got angry reading that because knowing what I know, I think Andrew's going to say. So Groo, the floor is yours. Some late viewer mail this morning. Go.
Well, I just disagree. I just disagree. But I'm not surprised. But but Craig, if you're going to talk about nostalgia, you're talking about the guy whose favorite band is the Guilfords. I mean, let's be real.
No. No. Don't deflect. Go to his comments. Don't deflect.
The comment, I stand by what I said. The reason that I think the whole thing is magical is because they've done what I consider to be the impossible. I've said this so many times. Like, they've done something that so many others have tried to do and failed. And they have succeeded on a massive level. So, yeah, it is magical. And, yes, I would like to know more about somebody who's making a difference in the narrative, which those thugs are. If you're a secondary character, I don't care, but they're not.
But you don't think... I honestly didn't talk to Craig, and I just saw his comments this morning. You don't think season 3 got gimmicky with the nostalgia? Like, you don't think now it's going to be a calling card for season 4 and perhaps future seasons? They're running out of people, but yeah. I mean, I just felt like that whole Doyona storyline was so manufactured. It had no bearing in reality.
And I gave you that, but the thing is.
You did? I thought you were like, no, it's a good. You thought it was like a pretty good sound.
No, it was a gimmicky way to get him to go there. But once he got there, I was all in. You were sort of out of you. That kind of took you out of it from the get go, which is fine.
I didn't like the Kamiko interaction. I thought the Chosen was much more meaningful and much more rooted in realism, and I found that interaction in terms of a plot point to be a lot more satisfying.
I think with every single piece of quote-unquote nostalgia, they have gone to great lengths to make it connect to the current narrative, and there's no exception to that. Not yet. Will they run out of ideas for that? I would guess they would have to, because the original movies only go so far, but I've yet to see a truly gratuitous use of nostalgia in there that doesn't connect to something that's going on that's important. Maybe at the most, maybe the golf and stuff thing. But even that puts a smile on my face because it's just so much fun to watch.
The golf and stuff thing is a callback, which is cute. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's just like
well, what does he mean? So what does he mean? So what does he mean by nostalgia then?
Desk.
Okay, all right. I'll give you an example. All right, go ahead.
Can I comment?
Yeah, go.
I never said gratuitous. What I said was gimmicky. Like it's just wedged in there for the purpose of. I wouldn't say gratuitous because gratuitous is over the top violence. What I did say was, when I saw it, I was like, really? That's how you're getting these characters into the mix? Whereas I felt like Kreese, although I did comment at the end of season 1, he's coming back from the dead. That was kind of soap opera-ish and goofy. And I don't want to get into the whole, but I mean, here's my question to you. Mm-hmm. What percentage would you give season 4 is going to have Terry Silver in it?
I would say 100. I hope.
Me too.
I hope.
There you go. Well, if it's done well,
yeah.
But now what I'm saying to you is, when you saw the trailer for season 3,
yeah,
and you saw Trozen, I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome," and I was excited.
Mm-hmm.
Then how I saw how they got there, I was like, "This is gimmicky." So now I'm almost expecting a Terry Silver now. Because I'm seeing a pattern from season 1 to season 2, season 3, and I don't want to belabor it, and I keep on saying belabor it, but I'm seeing a pattern where they're trying to put in a big name from the past that's going to add some spice to the season. Whereas, I don't know, the floor is yours. I'm done.
Yeah,
with this.
well, that's kind of what they do, but yes, they are going to run out of that, but they need to make it work, and that's what they've been very successful with that. They've made it work for the story. They, it just Kreese has been a significant. He basically is the story of season 3, and it works. If you like the season, you like that. The only gimmicky thing that really didn't fire for me, and we agree on this, is the how the girl he saved in the monsoon came back and saved his company. That's gimmicky. Yes, absolutely. But at that point, with the stuff with Kumiko, where she reads him the letter from Miyagi, which to me is a big moment, and then the stuff with Chosen. This is at the very end of his Okinawa trip. At that point, I was already bought in hook, line, and sinker. I didn't mind it, but I will call that gimmicky. Yes, and I'll go a little bit further and go back to season 2 when I knew that episode with the original Cobras was happening. I said that's going to be gimmicky. I said that's just fan service. They're just bringing them back just to make us happy.
Fan service. You use fan service.
Well, yeah, that's what it means, right?
Tentpole.
And what they were able to do with that.
Tentpole. Callback.
And what they were able to do with that was beyond what I could have hoped for.
Tropes, fan service.
Yeah. But I'll give you an example of where it doesn't work, and that's in like Star Wars, bringing back the Emperor.
All right, you use the same example.
Well, because it's true. By the way, I watched Dark Fate again. It gets better.
Who?
Terminator, Dark Fate. I watched it again last weekend. It gets better with repeat viewings.
No, it doesn't. It's when people...
No,
it doesn't. What it does is you've seen it over again. It's just how critics have eased up on Billy Joel or Phil Collins. With time, things kind of soften. My feelings on the movie are still the same. Which, by the way, my feelings were it was solid. It just wasn't spectacular. It wasn't spectacular.
Yeah, try it again.
Eric Bischoff is an American entrepreneur, television producer,
I'm back.
Booker, podcast host, and on-screen personality. Born May 27, 1955, Eric Bischoff is best known for serving as executive producer and later president of World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and subsequently the on-screen general manager of WWE's Raw brand. Eric Bischoff has also worked with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA, where he served as the executive producer of Impact Wrestling. He is an author as well. He has an autobiography titled Controversy Creates Cash, which was released in 2006 under WWE Books, which, if I do say so myself, was a very entertaining read. So today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast, titled Eric Bischoff, WCW, and the Monday Night Wars, is sponsored by New You Life Center, Phoenix Entrepreneur Magazine, named in the top 10 no goals. Thank you, Doctor, and New You.
Void in Indiana.
So, thank you, New You Life Center. So, Groo, let's keep it to an expansive 500 words or less. When I say Eric Bischoff, what comes to your mind?
Revolutionary. Probably did a whole.
Che Guevara.
He probably by accident changed and saved the wrestling business from itself. I don't think he meant to do it the way he did. I think he just stepped into. He did a lot of incredible things with the amount of money that he was given. He didn't squander it, at least not in the beginning. And he saved, in many ways, he saved pro wrestling for people like you and I. That's what comes to mind when I think about Bischoff. Do I think he's a genius? No. I don't think he would characterize himself that way. I think he just made some decisions and had some balls and an open pocketbook and was able to do things that we didn't think could be done. And that's what comes to mind.
Is he a wrestling legend, wrestling icon, or is he a guy that hit pay dirt once, kind of got lucky, and really hasn't been able to replicate ever since?
I think he got lucky once and backed it up and continues to back it up.
But what does that mean? I asked you, is he A or B?
He's A. He's an icon.
Oh, now you change.
No, he is. If you're forcing me into a corner to pick one or the other,
that's what a conversation. You're an expert.
But it's like he got lucky in the beginning. What he did with that luck was due to his fortitude. Was due to his guts and his and where he saw things going. Did it last forever? No, but I don't think it was designed to last forever. It did what it needed to do. So yes, he got.
Are you really going to come on here and it wasn't designed? I mean, they created WCW, they created NWO, they put Eric Bischoff in charge because what? They wanted a quick 3-year run, and that was it. Are you really going to tell me that?
When you are making your whole thing about stars that are definitely on the downward slope of their careers, you obviously don't have a 10-year goal in mind. At least that's the way I see it. All those guys were in their late 40s, early 50s at the time. Okay, you got Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan in main storylines. You got Roddy Piper in main storylines. Everybody who's opening and closing their shows are over the hill in certain ways, but they're using.
Now you just took one of our conversation points.
I did.
It just busted it open, so to speak, at the very beginning of the podcast.
But that's my answer.
We're going to do. I want to discuss that in depth a little bit more. But I mean, for you to, I don't know. I feel for you to say, well, it wasn't designed to. I mean, you think the WWE right now has a 10-year map out of what they want to do with Roman Reigns, and of course they don't.
No, but I think them focusing on the younger stars, for the most part, is part of a long-term business plan. Don't you? You don't think so?
That's very hindsight. All right, here's what you need to know. Eric Bischoff is a wrestling icon because he did in this. I've always said this about this country, this great country, which maybe Groo doesn't think, but
you're just trying to get.
Yes, but if you do something well, you can be a gazillionaire. And for even at the briefest moment, for 82, 83 weeks, his wrestling organization toppled one of the biggest name brand entrenched in a industry. I mean, when you think of, soda, Coca-Cola. When you think of wrestling, there's one name. Don't give me World Wrestling Federation, World Wrestling Entertainment. There's one name. Everybody else is just picking scraps. And this guy came in for 83 weeks, and they were number one. And he put this brand, this iconic brand, on its heels. Mm-hmm. And so for that, I do believe he's an icon. Mm-hmm. Because I believe if you could do one thing well, you can be a legend. Now, to your point of what was your other?
He backed it up. He made it last longer than it should have.
Okay, so my point would be this: I agree with you. I want to get to it a little bit later. I mean, relying on 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds to run is probably not sound. But I would probably say, and I think if Eric Bischoff was here in front of us, he'd probably say, well, that was what the market dictated, meaning he had to get some eyes on the product. So you're going to sign some big names or some of the biggest names. And so that's where it took him. The WWF, Vince McMahon, he's also a brilliant businessman. He said, well, if they're going to pluck off all my top guys, I better start developing talent. Now, the WWE, let's say for today, they've kind of gone back to, focusing on the Randy Ortons, the AJ Styles, because the ratings, when they tried to push with Heyman and perhaps even Bischoff when they were the creative directors, they tried to push these young guys. And I don't want to get off topic, but Vince has kind of gone back to the edges, the Randy Ortons, the Roman Reigns, the household names to maximize the eyes. I probably think if Eric Bischoff sat in front of us, he'd say, you're right, Andrew. It's probably not sound business to run your organization, your highlight 40 and 50-year-olds, but it's what I had to do to get eyeballs in the company. And had we had more long-term time, if we had more time, we would have tried to develop new talent. And they did try, but by the time they got into that new blood and all those ridiculous storylines, the die was already cast.
Well, yeah, because
WCW was in its dying days.
Yeah, but because what they had done was so popular that's all anybody really wanted to see. We were loyal WWF at the time guys, but we watched WCW. Why? Because of what they were doing with the NWO. We weren't paying much attention to the Juventud Guerrera match.
Speak for yourself. I love that stuff.
But all right. So here's my bad analogy. Okay, Bischoff, excuse me. Bischoff got into a situation where he got very lucky with Ted Turner and the bottomless pit of money. So Turner basically said, "I'll give you whatever you need to make this thing work." All right, he got lucky with that, and he was.
Why is he lucky?
Wait, hold on.
I even take umbrage with that. Why is he lucky? He worked himself up in that organization to be the president.
Yes, no, but even if you do that, to be given a bottomless pit of money to do with whatever you need to do, that doesn't happen every day. So that you got to be a little bit lucky to fall into that situation. That being said, taking nothing away from him, he got he got more mileage out of it than I think anybody could have. Okay, here's my analogy. Okay, Mike Tyson in whatever year it was. Okay, his first defeat. Buster Douglas comes in, knocks him out. One could say he got lucky, but he knocked him out, became the heavyweight champion of the world, and he blew it by just saying, "Hey, I got my moment." And now I'm just going to live it up. And then he goes and gets his ass kicked by Evander Holyfield. Bischoff did the opposite. He doubled down on his work ethic. And he made it. And instead of just sitting back and saying, I'm winning the ratings war, he's like, no, I got to keep this going. So he turns himself heel. And he makes himself the Mr. McMahon of WCW. And he keeps trying to find innovative new ways to tell the same story. And he was successful for a long time doing it, but eventually the well ran dry. But that's okay. But that's okay.
Why don't we just stop the podcast since you've exposed every storyline?
Oh, I have? Well, I'm trying to answer your question.
Okay, but we're trying to build into a topic. I'm so angry now. God damn it.
We'll do it live.
Shit sucks. I don't even understand. Well, I mean, I know what you're kind of trying to say, but I don't think he's lucky. And a matter of fact, I would say this. As they always say, prior preparation prevents piss-poor performance. I believe well-prepared people, though, generate their own luck. So
okay,
I don't think
I think that applies to him.
And I don't think he got an endless pit of money. I think what he was, I don't think he was lucky, but he worked himself in an organization to a position of power that did have a very wealthy individual, Ted Turner, who was a wrestling fan, behind him. I don't think they had an unlimited pit.
But knew nothing about the business, though.
I bet you Ted Turner would sit here and say, because if you watch, I watched the first couple of episodes of Monday Night Wars just to sort of reintegrate myself to this topic, and Ted had a lot of interaction with Vince McMahon in the early to mid 80s when Vince tried to take over the programming on TBS, and so Ted had some interaction with wrestling. I think he'd say that's a false statement. I don't think he would claim to know the business like a Vince McMahon, but he had interaction with the old NWA and Georgia Championship Wrestling. They appeared on his. Remember, TBS was the first, TBS was the first national cable network. I mean, like we could watch the Atlanta Braves in New York. I mean, that was pretty cool. That was domestic coverage. All right, look, let's get into it. Do you know how Eric Bischoff got his start in professional wrestling?
I know that he auditioned for the WWF, but that's the extent of my knowledge of his origins, because I know he didn't get the job.
Yeah, well, Eric Bischoff got his start in professional wrestling working for the American Wrestling Association, the AWA, in 1987, based out of Minneapolis, Groo. That was under the ownership of WWE Hall of Famer Vern Gagne. In 1989, Bischoff would become an on-air interviewer and held that job until the company folded in 1991. Initially, Bischoff worked in the sales department, and I believe he got in well with Vern because he had marketed some kind of like Velcro Kung Fu Karate Stars. It was like a game. It was like a kid's game.
Really?
And so, yeah, him and Sonny Ono. And so I think they advertised on AWA Wrestling like to market to kids, and Vern got to know Eric pretty well, and supposedly Groo, under the last minute, Larry Nelson, who was at the time employed by the AWA as an announcer, was arrested under the suspicion of DUI. Because of Nelson's sudden unavailability, Jim Cornette, a fellow pro wrestling lifer, opted to recruit Bischoff to fill in on the on-air interviews. Bischoff was thought to be a good replacement due to the fact that he was available, number one. He had some television studio experience. He was already wearing a suit and tie. And he apparently has done even some side gigs as a legit male model. He was a good-looking dude. So, Groo, any thoughts on this information? Eric Bischoff's early run as an announcer in all places, the AWA.
Well, I remember seeing him in all those magazines, posing nude.
Are you being goofy?
And
oh, okay.
He got his start like most of these people do, he probably was putting together the rings before the matches.
I don't think he was doing that.
You don't think so?
He was doing like this. No, he was doing like sales. He was. So I think the story is he interacted with Vern because he put products to advertise on Vern's, let's say, the AWA programming, and I think Vern thought he was a sharp guy. And I think the other thing was AWA was already starting to fold. The writing was on the wall, and so we had this young guy who was interested and had some interesting ideas. So I think Vern brought him on maybe to spur some growth in AWA.
Yeah, and I think what he did was he just worked his ass off, kept his eyes and his ears open, looked to see what the mistakes were, looked to see what worked, what didn't, and sort of just banked it all away in these files in his head, and took that to the next level. So maybe I'll walk back a little bit on the lucky comment. Maybe I'll just stick that just to, for anybody to get, just a blank check to do all these things.
Don't walk it back.
Well,
take a position and stick with it.
But I'm allowed to hear information, and because there's some stuff in there that I didn't know. I see a young guy right there whose purpose is to work his way up. He didn't want to be in sales the whole time. He obviously had an interest in being a wrestling promoter. So he latched himself onto Gagne, and both probably him and Greg, the younger one, and just started making friends, building a base of loyalty and a good reputation. And that's how you do it.
Yeah. Unlike you and I, where we have terrible reputations. The AWA was unable to meet payroll, Groo, and Bischoff did audition for an announcer's position with World Wrestling Federation in 1990, but was not hired. I believe his tryout is somewhere on the network.
Yeah,
where
I've seen
Bischoff
it.
actually interviews a mop.
Yeah.
Yes, a mop.
Yes.
And I don't know if you guys are... Hold on, I don't know if you're aware of it, but Andrew Gruthius in 1993 auditioned for a on-air announcer position with World Wrestling Federation where he talked to a toilet.
That is incorrect.
A toilet.
Otherwise known as Harvey Whippleman.
I mean, could you not put over my joke at least a little bit with a mild... Anyway, he did interview with the mop. I believe it's maybe on his documentary on the network.
Yes, it is.
So he actually, I think he got a chance to meet, or
so he came up. So he came up. Was this the genesis of the Moppy character that Perry Saturn would use later?
Yeah, that's a well-adjusted guy, Perry Saturn.
Oh my goodness!
He came on WWE programming. There wasn't one area of skin that was not tattooed or it was pierced. I was like, oh, this guy's well-adjusted.
Thinks highly of himself.
Let's move on to World Championship Wrestling. In 1991, Eric Bischoff joined WCW as the C show announcer, debuting at the Great American Bash. As an announcer, Bischoff reported to producer Tony Schiavone, who was WCW's vice president of broadcasting.
Imagine
Jim
that.
Ross.
Imagine that. Imagine Bischoff reporting to Schiavone,
and then to Jim Ross.
Yeah. But just knowing the history. Well, there's history with him and Ross too. But knowing that these guys were his bosses at one point is fascinating to me. Looking back on that.
2 years into the deal, in 1993, after WCW Vice President of Wrestling Operations Bill Watts resigned from the company, Bischoff went to TBS executive and WCW President Bill Shaw, and WCW Executive Vice President Bob Dew to apply for the job of executive producer. Ross and Schiavone seemed to be the top two candidates. However, Bischoff shockingly was hired in Watts' place. Schiavone remained a producer and commentator until the company's demise, but Jim Ross was granted his release from WCW and went to work for the WWF. Bischoff and Dew worked together as partners, but frequently clashed over the direction of the company. So Groo sounds like a shocking move. Both JR and Tony Schiavone get passed over for the younger and relative unknown in Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that either.
I did not know that.
So I'm guessing this is around 92, 93, because Ross, I believe...
This was 1993.
Yeah, because then Ross showed up. His first thing was the WrestleMania 9 with the WWF at Caesar's Palace, which was 93. Schiavone had a brief time with the WWF. I think he did one pay-per-view with them, which was a Royal Rumble, I think.
When was that, though? Was that before JR?
I think it was before JR. So. I'm trying to figure out if Schiavone left because of this as well, but I guess he didn't. I guess that was before WCW became WCW.
Yeah, Shivani always badmouths the WWE. JR is a little more.
But he did work. But he did work for them, though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I remember he did a brief run.
Yeah,
did a brief.
But
run.
this is, this is. I mean, but to answer your question about, this is. I would call this unprecedented. I mean, like if you were Ross or Shivani, what would you do? I mean, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah, I mean, I think JR did, in hindsight, did the right move. He said, "Screw this," and went to work for the competition where he had a really, really successful run. I mean,
yeah, he made it. He made himself into a brand, I would say.
Yeah. Agreed.
Shivani stayed and kind of is where he is.
Well, Groo in 1994, Bischoff was promoted from executive producer to senior vice president, putting him in charge of everything WCW. Eric Bischoff convinced Turner executives to better finance WCW in order to compete with the WWF. He moved WCW production to Disney MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida. Hulk Hogan, who was filming a little show called
Thunder in Paradise.
At Disney MGM Studios
with the great Chris Lemon.
That was, speaking of Lemon, was approached by Bischoff and Ric Flair and signed to a contract with WCW. He also invested money in production values and increased the number of WCW pay-per-views. At first, they were 7 a year. Then they went to 10. Then they went to 1 a month for 12. He also started a weekly live program, WCW Monday Nitro, that went directly against WWF's flagship Monday Night Raw. Bischoff remained an announcer on Nitro, regularly spoiling Raw results, as the latter show was not always aired live, to boost ratings. This created what is begun to known amongst the fans as the Monday Night Wars, as both WCW and WWF fought for viewers, and in the process kick-started off a new level of mainstream popularity for pro wrestling. The changes paid off, and in 1995, WCW turned a profit for the first time in the company's history. By 97, Groo, Eric Bischoff's official job title was President of World Championship Wrestling. So from 93 to 97, really 4 short years, he's the president of WCW.
Yeah, and rightly so, because he basically had nothing to lose. And he said, I'm just going to break every rule. I'm going to bust every taboo. I'm going to acknowledge the other company. All the things that the WWF never did. Did you ever notice
that's a good point.
Yeah, did you ever notice when a wrestler leaves, it's like they never existed. At least that's what it was like back then. WCW decided to acknowledge the competition and use it as sort of a Kickstarter, and that was evident on the first episode of Monday Nitro, where I believe Lex Luger, who had appeared at a WWF show the night before, the Sunday night before, then on Monday he shows up at WCW, and of course the announcers are kayfabing it up. They're saying, what's he doing here? He works for the other people, like all this. And right away, wrestling fans saw that while in the beginning the production values were probably still on a WCW Saturday night level, they weren't really, it took some time to build up those production values. They obviously saw that this is, the rules are changing now. Like, they really drew a line in the sand there, and Bischoff was the catalyst. He had guts, and he said, let's just, whatever we think of, whenever we say in our mind, you know what, we can't do this, let's just fucking do it. That's what I think of when I think of Bischoff during these years.
I can't really add much to it. Do you remember a trivia question where the first Monday Nitro was held?
Yeah, it was at the Mall of America.
Damn it.
Wasn't it? Am I right?
Yeah, you got it right now.
Yeah. I remember. You see Luger walking in. He comes like right out of the Great Train Store. You know that train store that all these malls have? He literally walks out of the train store and into the ring. I mean, it looked terrible, but the look of it didn't matter because of what was happening. Like, we're sitting there like, we're pissed off. Us WWF fans, we're pissed off. We're like, wait a second. That's our guy. Yet here we are watching their show. And that's...
Yeah, I don't remember being that pissed off. I wasn't a major fan of the Lex Express.
I was. I kind of liked it. I always liked... I liked Lex Luger.
The funny thing was, when I wrestled for WCW, they made me come out of an Orange Julius. Orange Julius. Hello, is this on?
I was representing Spencer Gifts.
Yes, of course.
But no, I was I was a Luger fan.
Any truth to the fact that you came out with edible underwear on? Is that
100% true? It
Yes.
didn't make it all the way to the ring though. That's the problem. So I had to go back in. But I was a fan of Lex Luger even before he came to WWF, because he was one of the Four Horsemen, and he looked like a star.
He was a B squad. He was B squad Four Horsemen. He wasn't A squad. Come on.
But we still knew who he was though. That's the thing. If we knew who they were, it was sort of exciting when they'd show up.
I agree. That's a fair statement. Definitely knew who Luger was.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it. We got some momentum. In 1996, Eric Bischoff signed WWF superstar Scott Hall, better known at the time as Reza Ramon. 2 weeks later on Nitro, Scott Hall was joined by Kevin Nash, most previously known as Diesel in the WWF, to become the Outsiders. Bischoff intentionally depicted the duo as WWF rebels who were not under contract to WCW. To avoid legal action by the WWF, Bischoff, in a worked interview at the Great American Bash, asked point blank if they worked for the WWF, which both Hall and Nash denied. The Outsiders expanded and became the New World Order, NWO, when perennial fan favorite Hulk Hogan, in a shocking move, aligned himself with the Outsiders. In July of 1996, probably some of the greatest television work, Andrew, on a professional wrestling show. Evan Moody, myself, a guy who was brought up on WWF programming, was now watching WCW and Monday Nitro first. Then I might go to Raw. Really exciting, inventive stuff. Groo, thoughts?
I have just had a moment feeling as if 1,000 Hulkamania hearts were just silenced and broken.
It was a major move.
That was, and it was one of the gutsiest moves ever. It was all Bischoff.
I was just going to say, I always let you speak, but I was going to try to come in and say that was a ballsy ass move to turn Hogan heel.
And everything you said, just like it just turned everything up to, starting with the interview, just asking them, are you, just the idea, just Bischoff planting the idea that they could be WWF spies, that's genius. That's like, let's just break every rule. And
can I ask real quick, when you watched it, because I know what I'm going to say, when you watched it, did you really, because we're older at this point, but did you get the sense of some kind of weird subterfuge? Like, did you really think, oh my God, these guys, like something weird going on in terms of contracts and work?
No, I remember thinking that it was all legit and that they were making it look like, that for story purposes. However, later on, I did get the feeling that they were trying to sabotage themselves, meaning Hall and Nash. But that's later on.
Oh no, okay, but I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the presentation on WCW, because I agree with you. I knew, but it was like I really suspended disbelief. Like it was. I don't know. I kind of felt like what like it was. Then
go ahead.
Yeah, it just was so different for its time.
Yeah, it was fun to imagine that, yes, they were sent here by Vince McMahon. And even though we knew deep down that it probably wasn't true, it was just so much fun just buying into that story. Because it was taking everything that we knew and loved about wrestling and catering to it. There was nothing that wasn't interesting about that to us. There was no spots where we're like, okay, well, I can go take a piss here. No, we were glued to that thing. And then we would go back and we wanted the WWF response, and of course, at that time, they weren't saying a word. They were still pretending like Bischoff didn't exist.
Well,
right?
They did a couple of things. Hold on. They did the fake Razor and Diesel, but they started doing like the Nacho Man and the Huckster promos where they were making fun of WCW for promoting older guys. So they did.
Yeah,
that's
true.
They did respond.
That's true, but they did it in jest, and WCW was obviously trying to make people think that this was a real thing.
I remember laughing at the WWF's promo, Scheme Gene.
Oh yeah, they were fun.
Man.
They were funny, but they were funny, but they didn't get them anywhere. Because at some point, Vince realized he was going to have to stand up and fight this guy head to head instead of trying to make a joke out of it.
Ooh, what a take! What a hot take! Yes. Well, the NWO Groo was depicted as a rival company engaging in a hostile takeover of the main company, WCW. Week to week, the angle got a little bit more complex. They added more main eventers, mid-carders, executive, referees, managers, announcers, homeless guys outside the arena. Everybody was involved.
Even me. Great Neck Groo. Great Neck Groo. I joined.
Subplots, yes, related to the on-screen WCW versus NWO power struggle. Led by the NWO storyline, WCW overtook the WWF as the #1 wrestling promotion in America, with Nitro defeating Raw in the ratings by a wide margin for 84 consecutive weeks. During this era, Bischoff moved from his role as commentator and joined the NWO as a manager. His television character, dubbed as Easy-E by Scott Hall or Sleazy-E by the WCW commentators, became a dictator type and an egomaniac as the NWO boss. Ted DiBiase Groo has said in a shoot interview that Bischoff originally hired DiBiase to be the spokesperson, which I did not know this, and the financial backer for the NWO. But when the NWO was getting over, Bischoff replaced DiBiase in the storyline as NWO spokesperson. So I did not know that going into this podcast. I know a lot about the whole Bischoff NWO stuff. So is this maybe perhaps where we start dipping our toe into the jump the shark territory with Bischoff injecting himself into the pure storyline? Or are you okay with it and enjoying the whole deal? Upon retrospective, looking back.
Looking back, this was where it sort of turned a corner, and I remember thinking that at the time, although not immediately, because I remember exactly when it happened. It happened when Roddy Piper came in, and it was a little bit after Halloween Havoc in '96, and Bischoff was seen as the guy who was negotiating that contract, and Piper called him out on it on live TV, and then it was revealed that he was really doing the bidding for the NWO. And so it was a shock. It was exciting. It was thrilling. And I would say that lasted for me for maybe like 6 or 7 weeks. But then I started thinking, because I know exactly what you're talking about, I started thinking about, well, why did they get rid of DiBiase? There's a guy who has been an absolute superstar. They had him. I, in retrospect, would be interested to have seen a DiBiase run NWO.
But here's my thing. I did not know this until when I got the notes. So my thing was they used DiBiase as a minor mouthpiece character, but originally storyline had him to be the Bischoff character, the face of the mouthpiece, the financial backer. And I just think, and Bischoff is an excellent television performer. Do not get me wrong. An excellent television performer. But perhaps upon retrospect, this is where things start to build, and it's a huge morass. It's just like we'll get into it, but it starts to get way down. It starts to feel like it's a little bit overload.
It also started to get repetitive. Like literally every week, the show would start with Bischoff, Hogan, and these guys entering the ring. They probably didn't even know what they were going to talk about. It wasn't really story driven. It was just like okay, we're here, everybody's watching us. So I think Bischoff, and maybe it was because he was too busy being on-air talent, he might have been losing a little bit of direction on where this whole thing was headed. You know, one could maybe say the same about Vince McMahon, except Vince McMahon had a very solid foundation of writers and creativity, a creative team, which if you we kind of knew at the time that Bischoff didn't really have that. They were writing these shows while they were airing. Do you remember that? They were like,
well, what I do think is a lot of the guys, these big names, had creative control. And I think, again, from what I've listened to and watched, and I'm sure you've listened and watched the same stuff, they probably put the kibosh on a lot of stuff. And although I do believe that the storylines were favoring these older guys, there were probably opportunities to put some of the younger talent or maybe fresh faces like a DDP over, and some of those things got squashed. And I think, you're not going to like perhaps, but I think guys like Nash, Hogan, perhaps Scott Hall too, but I think Nash and Hogan could be a little selfish and a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's why these guys are. I once saw a documentary piece about Hogan when he fought Shawn Michaels, and the politics backstage of having to work out that match was fascinating. And one of the guys said, one of the agents who they interviewed said, this is why they're the top guys, because the political game that these two played are just second to none, and that's why they're top superstars. So I'm not going to kill them on that avenue, but perhaps had they just kept it with DiBiase, who's a pro wrestler, but it's all hindsight because Bischoff is a terrific television performer.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not making sense.
No, you're making perfect sense. But you got to remember, there was a reason that Vince McMahon made sure that, except in the most extreme cases, the buck stopped with him.
Well, okay. So you mentioned
and
the
Bischoff
creative process.
Bischoff didn't have that, or at least didn't. He gave, like you said, he gave too many people too much power.
And I think we know that Vince had Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara, and some very creative, talented writers. And Vince was the final filter. So, yes, I think there was a more defined creative procedure on the WWF than WCW programming.
Yeah, but
I think ultimately that consistency, in part, probably and I'll get to what happened somewhere down the line.
Right, but it speaks to the point where the lesson in all this is there does have to be one person who really makes the final decisions. And WCW didn't have that because Bischoff could say, okay, what's going to happen tonight is Piper's going to beat Hogan, and this is the thing. Then Hogan had it in his contract where he'll say, no, I'm going to beat Piper. And then Nash would say, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do... Like, too many people had too much power. And when that happens, it's going to crumble. And that's kind of what happened. It took years to do it, but that's kind of what happened. Vince never let the talent get too much control, and that's how you run a business.
Well, look, as you said, too many chefs in the kitchen, but you mentioned the WWF. So let me go to this, Groo. The WWF began to rebrand their product as WWF Attitude and began to focus on new superstars, as Andrew said, as Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley, and The Rock, and did make longtime owner-announcer Vince McMahon into a character, thus eventually resulting in a ratings turnaround for the WWF. On April 13th, 1998, WWF ended WCW's year-and-a-half run on top of the ratings war. Despite losing to the ratings to the WWF, WCW did still continue to post strong ratings, attendance, and pay-per-view buy rates throughout 1998. Now, here's another point. In 1998, WCW had built one of its first homegrown superstars in Bill Goldberg and gave him the WCW World Heavyweight Championship on July 6th, 1998 at the Georgia Dome in front of almost 40,000 people on Nitro. This was probably one of the last times that Monday Nitro popped a huge rating, and I will bring it up again, Groo, because we've talked about it on the Goldberg podcast, our number one podcast. We had a difference of opinion. Groo said, put Goldberg, Hogan on TV, bump the ratings, get the ad money, get all that good stuff. Moody said, build to a pay-per-view, and it could be the biggest PPV of all time, and then you make your money that way. Groo, we've discussed it before, but I might as well bring it up again. Are you still down with your earlier comments on how they handled the whole Goldberg-Hogan, really the last big gasp in WCW Monday Night Wars?
No, why would I say that? That's a pay-per-view match. Why would I say that?
No. You said you agreed with them putting it on Monday Nitro.
I did?
You don't remember this? My God. Hey, hold on. You need to start taking more Ginkgoba, Biloba, whatever that. All right, let me set it up. Let me set up the segment. You said, I brought it up on the Goldberg podcast. Okay. You said you agreed with Bischoff putting it on Nitro, ad revenue, you pop a rating, you make a lot of money in ad revenue, and you bring eyes to the product. I said, while I don't dispute that that's not all good stuff, my thing is this could have been the biggest pay-per-view, bigger than any WrestleMania, the buy rate, Goldberg versus Hogan, and then hopefully your television product feeds off that massive pay-per-view success. So we've had probably over a year to marinate on it. What are your thoughts now? I mean, despite what you said perhaps a year ago, a year and a half ago.
My thoughts would be it would depend on was their pay-per-view revenues, were they doing okay pay-per-view wise?
Okay, can I make a point to that?
Yeah.
Forgetting the actual analytics of it, you don't think if you have the opportunity to run a massive pay-per-view and they're in the live event, I understand Nitro. Don't get me wrong, I'm not, but do you think if you had Vince McMahon in front of you or even Eric Bischoff, do you think Vince would say, if you said, Vince, what would you rather have? I'm just throwing this out there, devil's advocate. Like the largest pay-per-view of all time, WrestleMania, or you pop an 8 rating on Monday Night Raw. I mean, what do you think?
I'm going to answer your question with a question. Was this match during the 83-week run of WCW winning?
Yes, I believe
were they losing their stranglehold?
They were losing, and I believe it was almost like the stuff that I read and what we talked about on the podcast. It was like a desperation. I won't call it 100% desperation, but I'll call it I'm sure they probably would have liked to have saved it for the pay-per-view, but they wanted to get. Remember, Bischoff put a lot of stake into this ratings. It became, every show was like a bragging point. So they had lost, and I think they wanted to get back on top.
Yeah, maybe they were going for like a Hugh Grant Tonight Show thing where people would tune in just to see this, and they would see the rest of the product, and they'd sort of swing the favor back towards WCW. So I guess on that front, I can stand by my comments, but looking at it without any of those analytics. This is obviously a pay-per-view match. But isn't this... I might be getting my fiascos confused, but isn't this the one where they went off the air? Like, what was... They went on... A pay-per-view went off the air. They went off the air in the middle of a match.
Goldberg beat Hogan.
Right.
And then the Atlanta Falcons joined them in the ring to end the show.
No, there was something else. There was a pay-per-view that ended early in the middle of a Goldberg match, and then they showed that match on Nitro in its entirety, and they were criticized for that.
Yeah, was that Halloween Havoc versus DDP?
Yes, that was it. You're right. Good call. Good call. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll stand by what I said, but looking at it from a distance, you hear years later, you're like, why wouldn't they have put that on pay-per-view? But then when you ask me, standing in front of Vince McMahon, saying we can either take a huge boost here or make some big money today over here on the right, I would think more long term and say let's boost some ratings.
No, see, I think Vince would because I think pay-per-view numbers are like prestige. It's like the biggest WrestleMania of all time. I
know. I think Vince would have gone with the pay-per-view thing. Vince invented sports pay-per-view basically. So I think he would have gone there. I'm saying what I would have done, which explains my meteoric rise in the wrestling business.
Well, along the way, grew a couple, maybe perhaps poor decisions. We know that Kevin Nash defeats Goldberg with all things a cattle prod to become the champ, and then on the January 4th Nitro, all stuff we've discussed. At the Georgia Dome again, Kevin Nash drops the title to Hulk Hogan in a match that became better known as the Finger Poke of Doom. The NWO was rebranded with NWO Black, NWO Red, the Wolfpack. By March of 99. Hold on. I skipped. Okay, I apologize. I did talk about the cattle prod. Okay. The cattle prod was so ridiculous. I'm just reading my notes. I mean, basically, I skipped over one paragraph. I basically said that the Kevin Nash defeating of Goldberg with the cattle prod was just really, really ridiculous. And perhaps in hindsight, even though the Goldberg streak was also bordering on ridiculousness, would it have been better to have kept the title on Goldberg and really give it a payoff of some note than to do something so gimmicky like that?
Of course.
Now I'm getting upset again thinking about it. Okay.
Of course, yeah. But at this point, you covered a lot in that and what you just said. This is where the wheels are coming off. When the NWO split, that was when it was like we could tell that they didn't know what they were doing, and that they were just trying to figure out on the fly. All right, well, we got nothing else going on, so let's take. Bryan Adams is coming in. We'll turn him NWO. And not the Summer '69 Bryan Adams, but
I was just saying the singer.
No, Crush, the character Crush.
I love Cuts Like a Knife. It's one of my favorites. I love that song.
It's a great tune. Yeah. I love One Night Love Affair.
March,
we should do a Bryan Adams podcast.
Sure.
But no, I'm talking about Crush. You remember Crush?
I'd rather do a Bryan Adams, a singer.
No, but I'm trying to.
Of course.
Yeah. I think, but this is where the wheels are coming off, and they really don't know. They're starting to lose in the ratings. Vince is flying with Austin and The Rock, and the Michaels and all the factions. He's got they're firing on all cylinders, and literally WCW is trying to duct tape everything together. Yeah. That's what's going on at this point.
I mean, I will say again, the Crush Randy Savage Falls Count Anywhere match at WrestleMania 10 was my favorite match, and I still say
we're there.
Maybe for WWF, it was the beginnings of some of that hardcore shit.
Sure was. Sure was.
All right, Groo, by March, ratings are dropping. WCW began experiencing an endless streak of rating losses. Throughout 1999, Groo Bischoff reverted back to focusing on aging WCW stars such as Hogan, Diamond Dallas Page, Randy Savage, Sting, Roddy Piper, Nash, Ric Flair, Sid Vicious. In an effort to improve ratings, WCW also began to focus heavily on several celebrities, such as Groo's favorite, Master P and the No Limit Soldiers, a country western artist, Chad Brock Lesnar, Megadeth, Dennis Rodman, and Kiss. One of the last deals Bischoff structured was a deal with the members of the rock band Kiss to have their own wrestling character known as the Kiss Demon, which Groo, I don't know if you remember, was a massive failure.
Of course it was.
Massive failure.
Of course it was. Where was David Arquette in all this? When was that?
He was probably around 99, early 2000.
Okay.
Like a last gasp.
That was just the worst.
Yeah. Well, Groo, by late 99, WCW is losing around $5 million a month. Attendance, pay-per-view buys, and ratings were down significantly. On September 10th, 1999, Groo, your boy, Eric Bischoff, the decision was made to relieve him of power. We know he comes back, he leaves, he comes back. But in '99, when they finally send him on his way, Groo, was it the right decision to let Eric Bischoff go?
I don't think so. I think if anybody could have fixed it, it would have been him. But who did they have? They didn't have anybody behind him. Like, he had done it before. Give him the chance to do it again. Just he's got to sort of start from scratch. No, you don't just cut a guy like that loose who has done so much. Unless it was somewhat mutual, but I don't think it was. No, I don't think you do. I think you keep him.
I don't disagree with you in a sense, but what I will say is this: as a fan, and you're a fan too, and this is going back some years, I remember thinking I had never seen a momentum shift in any kind of struggle. I mean, WCW was on top, and then the WWF took over, and they were off. And I remember as a fan, I'd watch WCW occasionally, and I was very sad because it was really a diminished product, and it felt like there was just nothing they could do. Like, the gap was just so massive that perhaps it was really, really a lost cause. So while I don't necessarily disagree with you, I remember as a fan thinking, wow, they got a ways to go. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
No, I do agree with you with that. But let's say I was the money guy, I would have. I mean, look, it's all hindsight, but I would have given Eric 100% veto power over everything. I would have nulled every contract and said, all this creative control bullshit, it's out the window. You don't like it?
Yeah,
there's another federation up north you can go to.
All right, I don't want to get into labor laws, but you can't just null a contract, though, right?
Right. But they would have been like, yeah, and we've heard a lot about this. They were all guaranteed contracts. So let's say I was dealing with Kevin Nash, right? And say, all right, Kevin, listen. All right, I know it's in your contract. You have a choice. We're going to pay you either way. All right? If we pay you and you want to work, you're going to relinquish creative control. Otherwise, you can go home, not work, and still get paid. So that way they're still honoring the contract. There's probably nothing in the contract that says he has to be in the ring. He just has to get paid. That's probably what I would have done, because they had the money to do it. Better to pay a guy to sit at home than let him come on TV every week and ruin your shit.
Yeah, that's true. But,
you know what I mean?
You're talking about what like pro sport franchises have. It may be hard for them to justify a guy making that much money in the professional wrestling world to be sitting at home. However, I don't disagree with you. If you want to be a great organization, you got to make great decisions, and perhaps that might have been the way to go for some of these guys who were being complete pains in the asses.
Yeah, because backstage. look what I mean. It's easy to say this now, but look what that finger poke of doom did to the WCW championship in and of itself. It made it worthless, and it took them, and they never recovered from it. That was one of those decisions that was made because neither guy wanted to look bad. And guess what? If you want to be a star, there are gonna be times when you're gonna look like shit, and that's just part of it. But what beat them in the end, what beat Bischoff in the end, was the same thing that made him. The only way he was going to be able to do what he did was to give these guys what they wanted. And that's, ironically, what caused his demise in WCW. But hey, would you trade it for anything? Would you trade those 3 or 4 years for anything if you're Bischoff? I don't think I would.
Well, it was a year and a half. I don't think you traded in because
I'm not just talking about like the ratings streak. I'm talking about we were watching. Guys like you and I were watching for a couple of years there religiously. We were watching both shows pretty religiously, I think.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, hold on. I would say at the height of WCW, I put that show on first. And what I try to portray in my notes was, I'm a Northeast guy. I grew up in New York. I watched Georgia Championship Wrestling. I watched an occasional WCW old school on TBS. But 99% of my program was WWF. I was brought up on the WWF. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, my God, I'm putting on this other show first. And, it
also started earlier, I think.
What was it, 5 minutes?
No, wasn't for the first while. Didn't Raw start at 9 and Nitro started at 8? And Raw was 2 hours and Nitro was 3.
Yeah, you could be right.
I think for a while that's the way it was. I think.
Groo, the job title of president of WCW was eliminated. He was replaced with WCW, so you could tell already the wheels are coming off. Vice President of Strategic Planning, Bill Bush.
Giggity.
Who was named Senior Vice President. Brad Siegel handled the day-to-day ops. One of Bush's first acts in charge was to add former WWF head writer Vince Russo and his colleague Ed Ferrara, both of whom had worked on Raw when the show began to overtake Nitro in the ratings, to head up WCW's direction. Now, in April of 2000, Eric Bischoff returned as an on-air character alongside Vince Russo to lead the heel faction, the New Blood. Bischoff also worked on writing the shows with Russo during this time. Bischoff's last on-screen, on-camera role in WCW was July 2000 at the Bash at the Beach 2000 pay-per-view when Russo did a worked shoot promo on Hulk Hogan. Groo, we know now that the Vince Russo, Ed Ferrara writing team was a failure. The Bischoff-Vince Russo pairing, both on-screen and off-screen, was a failure. Don't know what comments to be had, but I do say in my notes, sort of a sad ending to a once great run for Eric Bischoff.
Yes, but at the same time, it's like he got there, he changed everything, and nothing lasts forever. And so it's like if you look at him, he's still a great American success story, no matter how you slice it. Doesn't really matter how it ended. That's basically the exception to the rule, don't you think? Because usually it's like not how you start, it's how you finish. And if you finish in disgrace, then that's how you're going to be. If you're going to be O.J. Simpson, you're going to be O.J. Simpson. But when I think of Bischoff, I don't think about his spectacular failure. I think about his spectacular success.
Okay, so that's a good point. I'd like to comment on that. Mm-hmm. I think time has softened that stance, because if you said to me in 2005, 2001, 2002, after this whole thing ended, I think most hardcore wrestling fans, I have no proof of this, I just think that they derided Eric Bischoff. He was seen as maybe a one-hit wonder. I think with time, people have appreciated the enormity of the task at hand in overtaking, and have had an appreciation for that magical 83-week run, and maybe there's nostalgia involved with it. If you said to me in 2002, I don't know what I would have said, but I think a lot of fans thought this guy was a one-hit wonder, and he had a period of, maybe as you mentioned earlier, perhaps slightly more lucky than good. I've always come to the realization that to be number one for a period of time, that's a lot of hard work, and that takes a lot of talent. So I don't think I would have derided him. But to your point, I think early on after he left, people saw it as maybe sad, and he got mocked for it. I think with time sort of heals those feelings, and maybe perhaps there's feelings of appreciation and nostalgia. I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about him is that professional wrestling is just one of a whole bunch of things that he has his hand in.
But nobody cares about the Jason Hervey partnership.
True, but yeah, all right, I'll give you that one. I'm trying to remember how I felt about him in 2002. I hated him just because he almost put our beloved WWF out of business. But yes. I don't think people like you and I ever denied
No.
how
I said to you.
how vital he was even back then.
I said to you back in 2002. I don't think I would have derided him because I appreciate that he was number one for a while. It's tough.
Yeah, and look, I do remember this. I do remember comparing. I remember watching Nitro and trying to find whatever negative thing I could say about it because I was still a WWF guy, as you were. So I kind of wanted them to fail, but I was watching them because it was so fascinating. But I remember feeling, and you'll love the comparison, like a rope burn at camp. Your fire is not going to burn the right way unless you have a solid foundation. You can light up the top and try to let that rope burn, but eventually that thing's going to crumble if you don't have something underneath. And WCW never had that foundation that WWF had because where WCW took these established stars and brought them over and just tried to ride that wave, didn't really do much new with them except with the exception of the NWO and Hogan. I'll give you that. The WWF sort of went the other way and said, okay, let's take the guys we know are talented from WCW who they have failed with, like Foley, Steve Austin, even The Undertaker. That was a little earlier, but even guys like him, and let's do something. There's talent there. We can do something with them. And so they become like when you think of when you think of Steve Austin, you think WWF, even though they both got their start in the territories, So I think the foundation was a big thing, and that's where Bischoff kind of missed. But I don't think he was going for that. I think he was trying to be number one right out of the gate, and he did it. And those situations are not built to last. It's like a stock.
Well,
it's like GameStop stock. It flies up, and then only to come crumbling down a few days later.
I don't know about that comparison. That was manipulated. These are manipulated by investors. Even the guys and girls who go on CNBC and Fox Business, they tout a company.
Right.
All that stuff's manipulated. I don't disagree with your analogy about the base. What I would say is I think the WWF. That was market forces. I mean, the WWF was forced in a sense. They had to go with what they had, and that was the younger guys and guys who had not made it in other federations as major stars. So I think good, smart companies are nimble. They're quick to adjust and quick to change the game plan. But Eric Bischoff did have one final fling with WCW.
Really?
On January 11th, 2001, with WCW facing major financial woes, Brad Siegel, who had handled creative for WCW, accepted Eric Bischoff's offer to purchase the company. However, the new head of Turner Broadcasting, Jamie Kellner, then canceled all WCW programming from its television networks. With no network on which to air its programming, WCW was of little talent to Bischoff's group, which was Fusient, whose offer depended on being able to continue to air WCW's programming on the Turner networks. Bischoff has stated, Groo, that it made, quote, absolutely no sense for us to do the deal under those circumstances. With WCW programming canceled, the company's key assets, their tape library, their trademarks, talent contracts, rings, etc., was purchased by the WWF in March 2004 for a substantially lower price, approximately, listen to this total, $3.5 million.
What?
For the number one wrestling company just a few short years ago.
That's tip money to Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Holy
monumental
shit.
moment, Groo, for the WWF purchasing the once great WCW for pennies on the dollar. Bischoff's financial group moves on once the television programming was off the table. Andrew, WCW purchased by the WWF.
Well, for us WWF fans, that was a big, big day. I remember watching that live. I think I had 2 TVs set up in the same room, watching both shows, and they were simulcast. And I just remember it was I remember thinking, and I think I was talking to you at the time. I know I was in New York at the time,
right.
But I think I was with you on the phone or something, and we were just saying, like, is this not the best night to ever be a wrestling?
Day for
be a wrestling fan? Like, it's all coming together right now because of the potential for that moment. We really thought that we were going to see, Hogan and the NWO and Goldberg coming on to Raw, and like, it obviously didn't happen, or it happened sporadically over the years. But we thought that it was going to be so huge, and it turned out not to be. But that night was a wrestling fans bunny ranch. Let's put it that way.
Well, Groo, was Eric Bischoff done with professional wrestling? On the July 15th episode of Monday Night Raw in 2005, I believe, Vince McMahon came out and stated the following. You don't realize this, but it takes a real son of a bitch to be successful in this business. So from one son of a bitch to another, allow me to introduce you to the new general manager of Raw. His name is Eric Bischoff. And off we go, Groo, for another time. That was Eric Bischoff, WCW, and the Monday Night Wars. Good night, everyone.
What a cliffhanger. Mr. Moody, it's been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to continue this at some other time. Next week on Nothing Worthwhile will be our coverage of the breakup of Chicago. What a segue.
Yeah,
yes.
I know, right? Every listener in India just clicked off their
they're like, what's Chicago?
I don't know what this means.
Yes, next week on Nothing Worthwhile, we're talking about Peter Cetera and the breakup of Chicago, one of the biggest splits in the history of modern rock and roll. Mr. Moody, Evan, it's been my pleasure to be here with you, as always, on Nothing Worthwhile. And next week, as I've told you twice already, it's the breakup of Chicago. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, and whatever that third thing is, 1, 2, 3. Rip 'em.
Quack, quack.